Hey guys, this is Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about more pre-modern decks. Yep, that's right. We got another pre-modern tournament. This one, I believe, was in Germany, and we're going to be looking at the top 8 decks. Got some pretty interesting ones, so let's go ahead and just get started. Okay, so I've actually met 7 decks. So apparently some of this deck wasn't included and they didn't tell like the TO or whoever what the deck list was. So apparently someone on the pre-modern Discord said that like they were playing against like Phantom Nashobas or just Nashobas and Mystic Enforcers and stuff. So I don't know. Some of this looks like a real deck. Uh, some of it is not. I mean, obviously all these double blue spells plus 2 blue sources. So yeah, obviously, I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, I guess like just an oath deck that oaths up Mystic Enforcer or something. I mean, I guess it'd have Threshold. So I don't know, a lot of weird stuff going on. But I guess it's sort of like sort of like I guess a control-based oath list. Um, yeah, sounds good. But yeah, there's not much to really talk about here. We don't really know what was going on, which is a little annoying, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and see what the next deck is. Okay, so this one is basically just Sly. But the first thing that popped out to me, well, other than like again, like a lot of people really like their Sulfuric Vortex main deck, and a lot of them, like I don't even play more than in like 2 sideboard off the top of my head, maybe 3 depending on the meta. But yeah, I would never play 4, and definitely not 4 main deck. A little wonky. Obviously, an extra like Barbarian Ring you basically pretty much always want to play. I think at least like one of is more or less a free roll depending on your mana base. Like if you're playing Waste and Port, I'm probably not playing Barbarian Ring, but um, I think that's fine. Uh, I mean, yeah, Thunderbolt's a little wonky. I guess I Kindle. I mean, some of these cards just seem like stuff that they wanted to play. Browbeat, 2 Curse Scroll. I mean, it seems like a lot of it's like I want to play mono red and I don't have all the cards yet, so I'll just like substitute them with other things, which is fine. Like I mean, obviously this is just a casual fun format, but that's sort of what it seems like to me, which is okay. Um, the sideboard looks like pretty smart. Like they know what they're doing. I guess there's. I mean, So Insult's obviously good against Tron. Um, what else off the top of my head? I mean, you can kind of color screw people, but I guess killing like Mishra's factories or something is interesting. And then also the Urza's Rage sideboard, I guess if you're just like, I mean, obviously you have 3 main Barbarian rings, so you're like, man, I really want to get a bunch of damage through to control decks. Um, I guess that makes sense. Pillar and stuff against Storm, Red Blast, Anarchy, Crypts, and stuff like that. That's like all obvious. Actually, speaking of Urza's Rage, this reminds me of a really long time ago when I guess Odyssey must have just been printed. And I remember people talking about in my LGS, my local card shop, about like how good it is that Sly now has like 20 points of uncounterable damage, like the 3 Urza's Rage and then the 4 Barbarian Ring and stuff. And I thought that's kind of interesting. I'm like looking back now, I'm like, well, I don't really remember Sly playing Urza's Rage, but hey, whatever, right? It's kind of funny. Good stuff, good stuff. But yeah, the deck is okay. Obviously, there's no Ball Lightning either, and only 2 Grim Lavamancer, which is a little wonky. Um, yeah, but this is like a little off from normal, but maybe they're testing stuff. Maybe it just didn't have the cards. Seems more like the latter. Okay, so this deck actually is really interesting. So it seems like there's some sort of convergence thing going on sometimes, at least like once a year. There's always like something someone does in a different format, and then like someone that plays Premodern is like, oh, hey, this is interesting. So obviously there's these Lotus Breach decks in Pioneer. Okay, so this video is being recorded like gonna be a couple weeks before it goes up. So if obviously if it gets banned by the time this goes up, then whatever. It was a deck in Pioneer that basically taps and untap the Lotus land from the newest core set that has hexproof or whatever, taps it and taps it a bunch, and then casts like wishes for something that costs like a bunch of damage, like expansion explosion, or sometimes just cast an Ugin or whatever. And so this apparently someone's like, oh, you can do that with obviously Lotus Veil, and yeah, so this is kind of like a mashup between like some sort of storm thing, like basically like 80% of High Tide, and then plus like Lotus Veil, and then stuff like Sapphire Medallion, which is pretty interesting. So you can just generate a ton of mana. That's kind of sweet, and then you brain freeze into death. So this deck is pretty cool, pretty fun. Like I said, yeah, it looks like 95% of High Tide minus the High Tide. So this is pretty cool. What obviously what I like about it is that well, you can basically play High Tide in Pre-Modern, which is cool. I've actually made a version of this deck and I proxied it and did a lot of gold fishing and stuff, and it's pretty cool. I got made a couple changes, but I like the deck. I think it's pretty interesting. It's pretty clever. There's definitely really clever deck building. So this is like this sort of convergence, this sort of inspiration, and they're like, oh, I can actually do that in this other format. So it's pretty sweet. I like the deck a lot. I think most of the numbers are pretty correct. Pretty correct. You don't really want fetch lands because there's no real reason to have them. Just lose life and whatever. So you're looking for like a turn 4-ish kill, and basically you'll need like double Lotus Veil or Lotus Veil plus Sapphire Medallion, or maybe multiple Sapphire Medallions or something like that. And I think the sideboard's pretty good. Obviously, you got stuff against the aggressive red decks, which can kill you pretty fast, sometimes before you can go off. So you have stuff like Blue Elemental Blast, which is great. Stuff against like control decks like Disrupt. Stuff to wish for, like Chain of Vapor, Hercule's Recall, things like that. Obviously, Stroke of Genius is a good one to wish for. Um, I'm not sure. I think you may want to Brain Freeze to wish for. And I have a couple other things I'd want to play in the sideboard too. But Defense Grid's obviously good against control decks. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty interesting. I mean, this is just like every time I do one of these, I'm pretty sure I always say like, how I always just see these new, different, crazy decks, and I mean, people are very creative. And so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So yeah, deck looks sweet. I mean, obviously maybe a little bit more work to do on it, but I guess eventually I'll come back to this deck and maybe do a deck tech on it or something. Pretty cool. Okay, so this is just Reanimator, really. I don't think there's much else to say here. People like playing Spirit of the Night. I don't really like Spirit of the Night. I think everything else is fine though. Um, Gosh, do I think? Yeah, I think I like three or no, four Unmask instead of two, but I think two's okay. Again, the mana base again is fine. I think I play something pretty similar to that in my Reanimator deck. Um, yeah, that's fine. And plus all the like the Gemstone Mines and Undiscovered Paradise and City of Rest, like they're actually kind of nice. Like if you draw like a Dark Ritual and a Lotus Petal, you can like cast stuff like your random off-color stuff, like your Achromas or Phantom Nishobas or Symbiotic Worms and stuff like that off your rituals, which is actually kind of nice. And then the sideboard is sort of like almost this stock like Oath of Druids, Multani, Negators, Dress, Powder Cakes, stuff like that. So yeah, nothing too weird here. Kind of a except Spear of the Night. I don't like Spear of the Night. I think I'd rather just play another Unmasked than a Spirit of the Night, or maybe a Visara or something. Not a fan. Not a fan. Okay. Again, we got more. This is basically more, well, more or less a stock version of the Dreadstill list. Like I said, biggest difference, at least in my list, is I really like Cloud of Fairies because you can do like Cloud Standstill or just Cloud Standstill with like a Mistress Factory in play. So it basically means your opponent has to break it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you can really take advantage of Standstill, which I like a lot. Um, yeah, Days is good. I like 4 days. I like the foil. Fire Ice, Impulse, Manly, Vision Charm, Stifle. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All 100% good. Um, Sideboard. Well, okay, so I think like not playing any like Mishra's Factory seems weird, but like I think I'd play 22 lands in my version where I play like factories and wastelands and stuff. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit different, but that's okay. Let's see. Sideboard looks good. I mean, stuff like Rushing River, answers stuff. I mean, the fleeing I'm not a huge fan of. Mostly because I mean it's just dead without Dreadnought. Obviously, like it doesn't do anything. Like I mean, I'd rather just have like if you're trying to kill super fast against combo decks or something. I mean, just play another like removal spell or disruption, like another annul or something. Like not a huge fan. Yeah, red blast, blue blasts, crypts, all this stuff looks good. Oh, I guess they do play divert. I think divert's kind of interesting. 'Cause you can, make them target their own stuff with their removal spells. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So pretty interesting stuff so far. All right, and so now we got, of course, friggin' mono white. Got white weenie. This, yeah, I like this. I like this deck. Looks not too bad. You got your knights, white knight, silver knight, whip quarter. Uh, although it's a little weird without the oh Ramosian Sergeant, I think. That's the 1 mana one to search out whip quarter. Seems a little weird without that, but that's okay. Mother of Runes, Savannah Lions, yeah, these are pretty much stock. Soul Warden's okay, I guess. Um, Devoted Caretaker, Glow Rider, Paladin in the back. I mean, these are okay. Well, okay, Glow Rider I think is really good. Devoted Caretaker's kind of interesting. It's basically a Mother Runes that lets you protect like your permanents, but you have to play a white and tap it, so it's obviously worse. I'm not 100% sure about that. Like, I think there's a lot of really good white cards to play. I like how they don't play like the shadow guys. I think they're worse since they can't block, and there's a lot of like really aggressive red stuff. So like having white knight or silver knight hold the ground against like red or black decks is actually really nice. Um, let's see, swords. Yeah, I mean it's a white deck. I like Crusade plus Battle Screech. That's pretty sweet. It's a lot of flying dudes. Almost makes me want to play like more, more Battle Screech. I love Battle Screech. It's one of my favorite cards. Makes me want to play Prismatic Strands too. Um, and then we've got Keldoran Outpost, of course, with a bunch of planes. I mean, it's just mono white. So yeah, Keldoran Outpost is basically a free roll. You might be able to play a little bit more. Maybe, I mean, probably no real reason not to play for Wasteland in this deck too, but that's okay. Sideboard's pretty random. Looks like the crypt is probably the only thing that was actually in there, and a bunch of random cards they forgot to tell or they know, or I don't know. That seems a little weird. Um, yeah, that's kind of wonky. But yeah, the stuff I would change, like I said, I have my own version of like White Weenie, but there's a million different versions and different ways to play it. You can play like a tax rack thing with like Imperial armor, and you can splash a bunch of colors. I like blue white with my own stuff. Um, but yeah, I like obviously Crusade and Battle Screech is pretty sweet. I like that. That's cool. Can't go wrong there. But it's kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, not something I would definitely like probably change the deck quite a bit. I would at least add 4 Wasteland. That seems weird, but that's okay. That's okay. All right, so now we have goblins. So I was looking at this deck, I was like, wow, that's a lot of goblins. That's a lot to rest. I'm like, man, it feels like this deck can just play everything. And then I realized that the deck looks pretty good, but it's not actually playing Matron. You can't play goblins without Matron. So don't play goblins without Matron. That's like that's an auto include. Might as well not play any war chiefs or ringleaders or pile drivers or lackeys. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. So yeah. So what I would change? I think this deck again, 90% of the main deck and sideboard is fine. I don't play any pyromancers. I don't think pyromancers really needed for the most part. So I'd cut the 2 pyromancers, cut the 2 slitters, add the 4 matrons. Um, probably cut a siege gang and a duress for 2 more lands, and then probably cut the goblin king for a goblin sharpshooter. Um, everything else is fine, I think. Yeah. Or maybe cut like a prospector for the 3rd duress if you wanted. But this, I mean, yeah, the sideboard is basically fine. I don't really like Sirocco, but the rest is good. John's Crusade, Pyrokinesis, Anarchy, Crypts. Um, yeah, that's all good. Yeah, still, I think you definitely want more lands. I like 24, especially since we don't have Vile. Uh, so yeah, it would be. I guess you. I mean, I don't know. It depends on. I'm still trying to find the right number to be able to cast like duress early enough. Whenever I need to, but not take too much extra damage from like City of Brass, things like that. So yeah, I'm probably adding another port in City of Brass or something. Not 100% sure. Anyways, this deck is like 90% good. Like I mean, the Goblins deck sort of builds itself. There's really not a lot of leeway. But Slitter, not a huge fan of really. Pyromancer, not a really huge fan of really. If I was going to play any of those, I would play them as one-ofs. I like Sharpshooter main deck a lot more, and Goblin King I'm not a huge fan of. Like if you had a bunch of like mid-range like red decks or something that weren't like Sly, which is like mono removal, where Goblin King just won't live. Um, that's about the only time I like it. But yeah, other than that, deck looks fine. But yeah, you have to play matrons, like regardless of anything else, and then less so. Probably you need to play at least 1 or 2 more lands. So yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead and move on to the last deck. All right, this one is sweet. So this is basically, well, I like this one a lot, I guess, first and foremost. It's very similar to the mono black deck I posted, but I mean, like I said, a lot of it is just like a lot of these mono black decks are probably just going to look alike the mono black control. Obviously, this one has quite a few differences than the one I posted, so let's go ahead and look at it. So we do have first and foremost a split of like discs, Vendal's discs and mutilates, which is pretty interesting. But that makes sense. You probably definitely want 1 copy of each, at least 1 copy of each main deck. Disc is great because I mean, I guess it can kill your arena if it's dealing too much damage to you, or obviously it's basically just a sweeper. I mean, that's why it's really used. But being able to kill your own enchantments is nice. And then, I mean, some stuff, 4 duress, 4 diabolic tutor, 4 corrupt. I think I played more drain lice than corrupts, but this is pretty interesting. A corrupt obviously is very good because, well, I mean, just deal a bunch of damage, gain a bunch of life, pretty sweet. Innocent Bloods, just more removal, and then stuff like Mind Sludge, Haunting Echoes, Drain Life, and Decree of Pain are interesting and or good tutor targets. Decree of Pain is really sweet. I mean, obviously, most people probably cast that in Commander, but you can cycle it instant speed to kill a bunch of stuff and draw a card, so it's like -2, -2. And then, like, if you hard cast it, like, you kill everything and then draw a card for every creature that died this way. Pretty sweet. Edict and Smother, really nice, just more removal. Skeletal Scrying is pretty sweet. I like that a lot. It just kills stuff really good. Or kill stuff. Wow, I'm a dummy. Excuse me. I was thinking of something else. Skeletal Scrying is an instant speed card drawing spell. Basically, kind of like a delve thing. You have to exile cards from your graveyard and lose life, but it only costs like a black and X to play. So that's pretty cool. So it's like you have to pay, obviously pay some amount of mana, draw a bunch of cards, but at that point you'll probably draw into like a corrupt or drain life or whatever, then go nuts. Then we got some interesting creatures. Nether Spirit. Obviously, Nether Spirit is great because you can just block with it forever and ever. It's really good with Disc and Mutilate because it just keeps coming back, obviously. So that's pretty cool. Hypnox is a good one. I mean, when you can, obviously, if you can hardcast it, like Mind Twist plus a huge flyer is pretty good. I mean, I don't know how many cards you're hitting at that point, but I mean, it's kind of interesting. I can't imagine you're hitting any cards in their hand at that point, but whatever, it's cool. Of course, Avatar Vow is pretty nice because you're just going to be killing and making them discard and all sorts of stuff. So when you have like a bajillion card or creatures in the graveyard, it's super cheap, which is pretty nice. So yeah. And then in the sideboard, lots of cool stuff. E-Plague against, you know, creature decks or tribal decks. Eradicate's pretty sweet. That does a pretty good job of killing one creature really hard. That really hard kills one creature. Um, Haunting Echoes, another Haunting Echoes. So like any of the slower mid-range board control prison style stuff that could be interesting there. Innocent Blood for more removal. Mutilate, again, more mass removal. Nether Spirit, I guess, against decks with Swords to Plowshares. Could be good there. And then 3 Negator and 3 Planar Void. Negator against like combo and control decks, of course. And then Planar Void is more graveyard hate. I mean, Planar Void is fine. Like, I don't hate it, especially since like your only other like 1 mana stuff is just like Duress. Well, I guess and Innocent Blood too, but I think I'd rather just play Crypt most of the time. And the other thing I'd probably want is like some number of like Hypnotic Spectre. Hypnotic Spectre is really nice because it's just it deals damage and it makes them discard, so that's kind of really nice too. So like against control decks, like obviously they can't block it with like their soldier tokens on the ground or Mistress Factories or any non-flyers, of course. So I really like Hypnotic Spectre too in the sideboard, but deck looks pretty good. I like it a lot. I think I'd probably want to play another land, but that's just me. But everything else pretty cool, pretty good. So yeah, I like this deck a lot. It's not surprising why I took first. I think Hypnox is a little bit too memey. Is meme a word? It's like a meme. It's as the well, anyways, it's like a meme. So yeah. And Avatar was okay, but I'd probably take those out too. But everything else I think is like looks really good. Probably take out Hypnox for like a swamp or something, and Avatar Woe for like a Masticore. Like Masticore is so sweet. Yeah, it lives through all your it doesn't live through Mutilate, of course, but it does live through Disc. So yeah, it's pretty good with a lot of mana. Actually, there probably should be some Masticore somewhere in here. Actually, I wonder what the Eradicate's for. Like, what one creature was this guy like, or girl? I can't tell. Was this person like, man, fuck this one creature in particular? I don't know. Anyways, so that's it. That's it, guys. I don't want to go on for too long, but these are some interesting decks, some really interesting stuff. I like it. Just be sure to play your Goblin Matrons, and then we won't have to have any words. So, so thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you liked it, and have a great day.